Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies that make us feel seen. And my co-host today is an incredibly exciting figure whose forays into different parts of the filmmaking process I have really been enjoying over their past two entries. You may have seen their work as a long-time big screen editor on titles such as Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, Big Lebowski, The Notorious Betty Page, Solitary Man. They performed the same capacity in their recent two films, Drive Away Dolls, which we will refer to on the show as Drive Away Dykes, as well as Honey Don't. And they also, for those movies, served as co-writer, producer, co-director. Tricia Cooke, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started here today?
I like black tea.
Honestly, as a black tea enthusiast, I'm gonna take this breadcrumb and say, what are your choice black teas? Because I'm always looking for good recommendations.
I would say just store-bought black tea is the Rishi English breakfast black tea is my go-to. Mm-hmm. It's easy, it's good and strong. If I'm someplace where they have fancy tea shops, I love a good, rose tea is very nice. Assam. I'm not a big Earl Grey fan.
I feel like if I'm at a restaurant, I get like a little after dinner tea if they have that. If ever there is like something with an Earl Grey or the bergamot that's in that, they're like, exactly. We have this beautiful black tea, it's a bergamot, this, and I feel so bad because every time I have to break their hearts, and I'm like, that's actually exactly what I do not want. I so appreciate your offer. Like, I'll just take a nice green tea, but that florally, perfumey bergamot Earl Grey thing, really don't care for it.
It shouldn't be in black tea. It just doesn't make any sense. I was in I'm gonna fumble this name, Mirage Frere.
Oh my God, the fanciest of teas, teas that one can buy.
And this tea seller had, it wasn't their shop, but it was a tea seller selling their teas, and he must have had 50 big tins, and they had at least 12 breakfast teas.
Their French breakfast smells like baking cookies.
Well, and so I was like, I'll try them all, I'll smell them all, and I was so excited. I was somewhere in France, and the tea that I ended up liking the most, to my great dismay, was the American breakfast tea. I was like, of course, it's the one that smells the best to me. It was very disappointing. So not cosmopolitan, but there you have it.
I'm really glad that we have started off on the same common page. Thank you for that, Tricia.
Sure.
My only question, are you milk in the tea person, or do you just like a black tea?
I'm a milk and sugar.
I'm a creamy sugar person. I like a nice heavy milk. Look at us. We're having tea. We're metaphorically having tea, everybody. I guess my first question that I do want to start off with, so I make sure I'm squared on it, is you were, it was officially designated Ethan Coen, director of Drive Away Dykes. You guys co-writing together, doing so much together with that. But it is widely discussed, widely recognized that you were the co-director of that movie. Is that the same case with Honey Don't?
Yes. We serve the same roles. Okay,
so co-director, co-writer, producer, editor of Honey Don't, Tricia Cooke. Welcome to the show. Hello.
It's very nice to be here.
Thank you so much. What is it about Margaret Qualley that has made her the carry-through heroine of your guys' two lesbian B-genre movies over these past couple of years? She's one of my very favorites. I love her. I want to know what you guys saw in that to where, like, we're taking her through this spiritual franchise of sorts.
Well, we love her too. She's very fun to work with. She's versatile. She's incredibly professional. She's just so easy for us to work with. She's goofy in just the right way, and she has all this grace and elegance about her, which we thought would be really great for Honey Don't in particular. But she's just a great actress, and she's fun to hang with when, you've got downtime. Mm-hmm. We'd seen her other work before, so we knew she could do a lot of different types of characters. She's incredibly generous with the people she works with. She's just open to anything. She's a good team player.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I've enjoyed most about as her career has built up and obviously kind of launched over these past couple of years is her seemingly sort of like willingness to to dive in sort of whatever capacity like she embraces in a role and is asked to do. And I've just found it very heartening, sort of like how game she is to be absolutely out of her mind if called for. And I've been very impressed by the bold lesbian energy she has brought to both of these movies.
She's great. She just shows up and she's, sexy, and she can just do it, like she's just very good. And that's an apt, word to describe her. She's game for anything. You say, Margaret, now you have to jump through these 5 burning, hoops, and she'll be like, okay,
yeah,
I'll figure that out.
I'll figure that out.
Yeah.
In the discussion of lesbian queer cinema, lesbian roles, the character that you have brought to the table is an icon of the sort. Megan in But I'm a Cheerleader.
I'm a homosexual. I'm a homosexual.
Congratulations, Megan. You have just taken your first step in your true direction.
And so I would love to hear about your first experience watching that film.
Well, I watched it when it came out, I think, in the late 90s. And I came out when I was in my early 20s, like when I was in college. I think I knew before that I was queer, but I hadn't told anyone. By the time I got to college, I was like, all right, I know I'm a lesbian. But yeah, it wasn't for another few years that I was like, and I'm going to start telling my friends and my family. So when I watched But I'm a Cheerleader, it was the first lesbian movie that I had seen that I had a real sense of humor, had a strong sense of humor, had a very strong sense of style, and was, campy in just the right way. And all of that spoke to my sensibilities as just a viewer. That's what I liked to watch. And as much as I like other, queer films, it was the first time I was like, oh, this doesn't have to be sad. Like, there doesn't have to be loss. It doesn't have to be tragic. It can be celebrated. And we can laugh throughout. So that was really fun for me. I mean, of course, there have been like queer movies for men, gay men, like John Waters and all of that. But that was the first time I had experienced something that was fun and queer for me.
I think it might be a great idea for Megan to be reminded of your root, Graham.
My mother got married in pants.
All right, let's see. Dolph.
Too many locker room showers with the varsity team.
Hillary.
All-girl boarding school.
Sinead.
I was born in France.
Clayton.
My mom let me play in her pumps.
I like balls.
Why, thank you for that, Jen. Joe.
Traumatic bris. So, yeah.
Now, Megan, do you see how easy it could be? You just have to dig down into those painful memories, and you'll find it.
This is kind of tangential, but I was listening to the Professor Jack Halberstam speak once in an interview, and he was talking about how he thinks that one of the most tragic things that has befallen queer cinema, in his estimation, was the repealing of the production code, the repealing of the Hays Code, because he found the obviousness of sort of presence of discretion, of perhaps queerness on screen after the fall of the code, to be something so much less exciting or thought-provoking than it having to be like cloaked in metaphor and mystery and something subversive to convey it to an audience that wasn't allowed to see it, but that could perhaps pick up on subtext. And I've thought about that for years since I heard him say it, because there's so much joy in obviously seeing yourself there. And Professor Halberstam seems like something of a provocateur of sorts. But it's like this notion that the idea of being able to have more fun when you're keeping a secret kind of thing. And it feels like lesbian cinema can at so many points be mired in not really having a lot of fun and having a lot of tragedy. And I guess I just, making these movies that are, very, I read a quote from you and Ethan were talking about, I think it was Kristen Stewart had been given the script to read for Driveway Dykes when it was being made. And her feedback to you guys was like, we need this like dumb movie.
We need the stupid movie, I think was what she said.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wanted to hear from you about like, one of my favorite conversations I've had on this podcast is somebody came on and spoke about Professor Green from Clue as being dipshit gay representation and how dipshit gay representation is also important in the schema of important cinema.
I agree wholeheartedly. And to get back to the other professor you were talking about, or writer, I mean, there is something titillating about not being able to put things right there on screen, right? I mean, if you have to cloak it or, work around it, there's something that's exciting about that. And I do a lot of activism work, and, there's something about like normalizing everything that takes away something that's really special about our culture, our community. I mean, and it is a marginalized community. There aren't many of us. And so that's not the norm, but at the same time, I got so tired of not feeling represented on screen and not feeling represented in a way where we can be dumb, we can make mistakes, we can be the asshole characters, more of that, like more of just, I think that will help people understand that, we're all human, and we all kind of are these big people who sometimes say the wrong things or sometimes do stupid things. And we don't always have to be, and because we're marginalized, we don't always have to be the hero, we can just be, yeah. And I mean, having said that, you never want to stereotype someone. You never want to overgeneralize or, you don't want the gay man to be the super effeminate gay man. And sometimes you use that because it's an easy device to tell a story. But you want to, kind of see all of us in all of our warts. And,
Hi, I'm Lloyd Morgan Gordon. This is Larry Morgan Gordon. Glad to have you with us. You'll need one of these. May not be an exact match, but...
First time you've all been AWOL?
Larry and Lloyd are ex-gays.
From True Directions?
We were among Mary's ranks before we defected.
We're just trying to provide you all with a balanced perspective, to see that there are options. In the end, it's up to you whether you choose to live a lie. Whether you want to be who you are or keep it hidden is really more what we're about.
So you run like the underground homo railroad.
Something I think so much about, like watching something like But I'm a Cheerleader that paints in such like beautiful, like bright color, broad strokes on purpose. Like it's a tongue-in-cheek movie that is campy and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And yet at its sincere heart is like a landmark piece of celebratory gay cinema when we could feel so mired in heavy, sad gay cinema. And it makes me so mad that stereotype for a pejorative sense has sort of robbed representation at times in the queer experience of like the rainbow of representation. Cause it's like, well, we want to make sure and don't limit people to the stereotype of like this swishy guy over here or this like, feminazi over there.
Right.
But at the same time, like those are members of the color wheel. And it makes me so mad that negative stereotyping has stripped identity, positivity away from those people that do exist in my life, that I see as like Hollywood from Mannequin, like my first favorite movie and like the first gay representation I remember. And I wanted to hear from you about like, I guess like how has like sort of your processes coming into your writing been of like reveling in stereotype of its bigness or perhaps feeling alienated by the pejorative that comes with it? And how do you find the balance of that?
I mean, that's a good question. It's hard because, like when you're writing these characters, you also don't want to, you're a part of a community and you don't want to alienate that community. Yeah. And, there's a big fear of like people just being like, fuck you, like, how dare you represent me like that? mean, I think that when we're writing, we're just trying to write interesting characters. And so, like, especially the main characters, you just want to give them a real, like you want to give them some depth, you want to give them some background, and you want to make them interesting. And so I feel like those characters, in both Drive Away Dykes and Honey Don't, they're fairly well rounded. Like they don't feel like stereotypes to me. I mean, there are some things like in both MG and Honey's characters were abused, and that's that's a trope, but it's something that I've dealt with, and it's a real thing.
Yeah,
and,
especially for women and at the intersection of queer women, that is a higher occurrence of abuse.
Exactly. So, those things, like, you use them because they're part of the genre and because they're real and you feel them. And then, it might be, okay, this is an easy way to tell this story, or this gives an easy background for someone. But so if it's working for us, then it works. And I mean, if you get caught up in, oh no, we have to make this character, fit into all of these different kind of, demands that society is making right now, it's impossible. So I don't know. I'm writing something right now with my daughter and Ethan, and it's an adaptation of a book about these two young girls and their mother who go to the south of France in the late 50s. And she's a single mom, and she brings her two daughters there, and they spend a year in Aix-en-Provence. And the daughters are like, they're so much fun because you can do so much with them. And if you make them good, fun, well-rounded characters, then I don't care if some of a little of it is a stereotype, that's what we know. That's what we're familiar with.
Well, actually, that sense of familiarity gets me at a part of But I'm a Cheerleader that I did want to ask about. You have spoken about, like, growing up in Southern California, and which is, I feel like people outside of it may have this notion that, like, oh yeah, liberal LA. It's like, not all of LA. And then you think of, like, the Prop 8 campaigns in the 2000s. Those were seated in Orange County, which is a quite pervasively conservative, very normative area. And something that I feel like is so effective about But I'm a Cheerleader in its like evocations of the world that it creates is, like, you start with Megan in the most anodyne suburban existence. She's the cheerleader, she's got the boyfriend, and everything about her feels like a pervasive sense of suburban malaise, like, surrounding her.
Megan, we love you. We all love you. And lately we've become concerned about certain behaviors. We're afraid you're being influenced by a way of thinking, an unnatural. Do you remember the woman on TV?
Honey, we think you're a lesbian.
I myself was once a gay. Now I'm an ex-gay, Megan. I work for a place called True Directions, who help people like yourself learn to understand the reasons behind homosexual tendencies and how to heal them.
What tendencies? Why would you think I'm a...
You've been trying to make us eat this tofu.
And even when they send her off to the conversion camp with Kathy Moriarty and RuPaul, it's like they're trying to create suburbia and its tropes within this confined, like, painted blue and pink, like, strange funhouse of heterosexuality.
We've kind of been like this greeting card family. And then there was that one year where, Dad was unemployed and Mom had to support us.
Wait a minute, that was only for 9 months. And then I was offered a much better job at the plant.
Well, maybe seeing Mom kind of being the dad, maybe I got kind of the wrong idea about the roles of men and women.
Absolutely. I can't believe that you didn't mention this earlier. Your father was emasculated, your mother was domineering.
Well, not exactly.
You wanted to emulate your mother. You have no respect for men because you don't respect your father.
It's really not like that.
Megan, you have found your root.
There's something so aggressively heterosexual about the aura of the suburbs. And I wanted to hear from you as somebody like came out in college but knew from earlier on that they weren't necessarily identifying with like the normative nature of the people around them. And then especially too as a creative who would go on to study film at NYU and start obviously working with Joel and Ethan Coen and build your career in film. I wanted to hear specifically about connecting with the suburbs and what that part of your identity was growing up.
It was a huge part of my identity. I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up literally in the town that was right next door to the Orange County border, but was Los Angeles County.
Okay,
so
got it.
I grew up in a suburb called La Mirada, which is next to Whittier, which people know because of Richard Nixon primarily.
Yay!
Yeah. Let's all celebrate. Well, it's better than what we have now. So, I grew up in a suburb, like riding my bike to school every day. I was the pep chairman in high school. My mother sent me to cheerleading camp. That was my life. I unfortunately didn't have Bud Cort and Mink Stoll as parents, but, I definitely had a station wagon, filled and kind of, I love the set design, but I'm a cheerleader. Like when she's at home in suburbia with all of the browns and like like the total kind of natural tones, like boring tones. And even when they're dropping her off in this like brown, big, ugly, boring station wagon to this place that has, now it looks like the trans flag, which is great. But it's so, poppy in that landscape. But yeah, that was my life. My parents were conservative. I grew up in a pretty conservative town, conservative high school. It's all of the pep chairmen or pep chairwomen, because we were all women, I'm pretty sure we were all dykes. Like, I think because we were the ones who
classic case.
Right?
A classic case.
We were the ones who were in charge of the cheerleaders, like getting them, like pepped up for the pep rally and everything. And I think it was just all of us like dykes who were just like, that's the job I want. Yeah, suburbia was just, it's in my core. And with both, but I'm a cheerleader, kind of relating to that, and then in Honey Don't.
I was thinking about that a lot watching Honey Don't. Like thinking of kind of not necessarily those two movies in like explicit conversation with each other, but that aspect of like, it's not a movie. Honey Don't's not set in LA. It's not even set in St. Louis. It's like it's Bakersfield, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So yeah, and that was, that kind of really bleak, like sun-baked landscape. I grew up off Imperial Highway. I don't know if you know.
I do,
but,
yes.
It's very industrial. There were oil riggers. I don't know, a mile from my house, all the way down to my dad. My dad's a dentist, all the way down to his dentist office.
That's like, the perfect suburban dad job, is a dentist. Wow,
nothing
that
more
is
suburban than having a dentist dad.
Not even like the local pediatrician, like the dentist.
Yeah.
You can picture the whole garb.
Yeah, my mom was in junior league. She was the, PTA, like president, class mom. So, I just related in so many ways. Although I don't think I ever denied the movie that I watched that I was thinking about using, but then I, looked at it again. But the first queer movie I can remember watching, there were two, La Cage aux Folles and Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. And that was what I was going to use. And then I was like, I can't say like I felt seen because the character's trans, but those, when I saw those two movies, I felt like, oh my God, there are movies for people who are like me, like the way I'm feeling right now. And I can remember I had a crush on this girl in high school and going over and, sitting down and like saying like, do you want to watch La Casa Fall? I've watched it. It's so great. And she's like, was so not into it. Yeah.
A great litmus test moment in your feelings for that person.
For sure.
Was that something where like, because we we've had both experience on the show, like talking to people who like grew with an upbringing like that. Either it was like, you know what, I felt like a fish out of water. It was really awkward. I was just trying to pass till I got out of there. But then people too who were like, and it was great. I was captain of the football team and I was head cheerleader. And like, I knew I wasn't, even if I knew I wasn't kind of like everybody around me, like things were good and life was good. So I kind of wasn't questioning it. And then I got out into a bigger world and realized that there was a truth I couldn't really keep looking over about myself. So was your experience of growing, like the dentist father, the junior league mother, you're head of the pep committee, was that something where when you were in it, were you feeling the friction against it? Or were you like kind of like just going downstream with the water and it was okay?
And yeah, I had a very, easy time in my community. I wasn't out. I didn't even really realize I was gay until probably I was 17. So most of my childhood, most of my time in suburbia was spent not with boyfriends, but I had a group of friends. And I mean, it turned out like every prom I would go to or formal I would go to was with who's still one of my closest friends. A guy who turned out to be gay, of course.
More of the canonical gay experience.
Yeah.
Here.
So, and moved to the East Coast. And so we've been, so close for, 45 years. But no, I had a very easy time of it in high school. And I mean, I was always, kind of like an extroverted introvert. So like there's only so far I could push myself, but I never felt alienated at all while I was there.
I'm really like, I'm hanging on to in my head what you said about the thing of like when you normalize something transgressive or something that is marginalized so far, but that is ultimately like it is still not the norm. Like it is still coloring outside the lines. And that's something I feel like with But I'm a Cheerleader, where it is coming in 1999, like arguably like, people, the greatest movies year ever. And that coming at the end of the 90s, which is such an incredible bloom of new queer cinema. And it feels like we're kind of getting away with all this stuff before 9/11's gonna happen. We can be in an era where movies like Go Fish and The Watermelon Woman can exist. And it's like, hey, maybe it's not all just the children's hour. And we're not all just like so fucking bummed about lesbians and being lesbians and torn loves across time. And then we're in this time now where there is so much more normalization of queer representation on screen at the same time as it feels like we are being dragged by the necks and pulled back to the era in which you started writing with Ethan these lesbian pulp movies from the early 2000s when you got started on them, when it's like, oh, these don't feel like they're necessarily possible to make right now. But we want to write these and maybe they won't ever get made, but we like them. Mm-hmm. And then we come around to a time where they can get made, dropped plop in the middle of, hey, Kim Davis has risen from the grave and she's going to try and take gay marriage to the Supreme Court to get Obergefell repealed and then destroy those protections for federal sanctioning of gay marriage. Ha ha! Yeah. So like, I just wanted to hear from you about that swing of history and being a part of it now, especially as an active organizer and activist.
Well, that's all true. And I mean, I have no idea why that is. I mean, Go Fish is also one of my favorites. I mean, of the, queer just movies in general. Mm-hmm. And Rose is a good friend, a great filmmaker. And all of those films in the 90s, Parting Glances. I mean, there were just so many of them that were like, oh, wow, okay, here we are, great. And then 9/11 happened, and by the time we had written Drive Away Dykes and we're trying to get it made, we couldn't. Mm-hmm. Around 2008, maybe we were shopping around, and it was just like, it felt like, it was like, no, sorry, all that fun, you don't get to have that anymore. And now, I mean, I don't know, people talk about a backlash, and I think that that's true. Like all of these incredibly like Christian conservative people are just like, no, you had your fun and we're not going to allow it anymore. And enough is enough.
Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
And it's
you had your 15 minutes of fame.
Right.
Now get the fuck back behind that closet.
Yeah, and it's so heartbreaking. It's so hard, and you think, okay, well, we just have to keep pushing. We just have to work harder. We just have to, fight more, and things will turn. But it's hard not to get dispirited sometimes, for sure. I mean, there are great people who are, especially not in this country, but outside of this country, who are all about, having marginalized voices heard. A friend of mine just sent me a 1-year subscription to Watermelon Plus. Do you know this?
No, what's that?
It's a new streaming service for material that's for marginalized communities. Yeah, I just got it yesterday, so I'm excited to check that out.
We're going to take a break, but we will be back with Tricia, and she will tell us why she eschews convention in both her work and her relationships. Then I will have one quick thing at the end before I go about the latest Stephen King adaptation on the horizon, The Long Walk. It's a really good one, guys, and it looks like people can finally talk about it, so I will put up my 2 cents at the very end.
Hi, is this Archer?
Yes, hello, who is this?
Hi, this is Tom Lum from Let's Learn Everything. I'm calling about your Maximum Fun membership's extended warranty. Do you have a few seconds to talk about that?
I think I have to go.
No, oh, no, they're gonna be so mad at me.
Okay, fine.
Did you know that as a part of your Max Fun membership's extended warranty, you've been picked as the member of the month, which is wild, and we're so excited to have you.
It's so exciting. Thank you.
So as our member of the month, you will also be getting a $25 gift card to the Maximum Fun store, a special member of the month bumper sticker, a special priority parking spot at Max Fun HQ in Los Angeles, California, just for you. Also, I have to read this. It says, we at Maximum Fun apologize you ended up with the worst host of the 3, and as consolation, you'll be getting those. Why is that included? I don't remember that being there for the other.
It's okay, I can settle, it's fine.
Max Fun members are the best.
Become a Max Fun member now at MaximumFun.org/join.
Say you like video games, and who doesn't?
I mean, some people probably don't.
Okay, but a lot of people do. So say you're one of those people, and you feel like you don't really have anyone to talk to about the games that you like.
Well, you should get some better friends.
Okay, yes, you could get some better friends, but you could also listen to Triple Click, a weekly podcast about video games hosted by me, Kirk Hamilton.
Me, Maddie Myers.
And me, Jason Schreier. We talk about new releases, old classics, industry news, and whatever, really.
We'll show you new things to love about games, and maybe even help you find new friends to talk to about them.
Triple Click. It's kind of like we're your friends. Find us at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Somebody active in the organizing activism space, I guess, like, and talking to and having that small exchange earlier about trying to normalize that which is radical. What animates you in the notion in sort of the space of, does it prompt a more radical spirit? Like, how do you feel about what pushback is asked of us when we've been so normalized and welcomed in, quote unquote, heavily conditionally, and your membership can be revoked at any time, to be welcomed in and then to be oneself and say, you were yourself too much and now you might have to go. It feels like, well, then fuck you. I guess it's new queer cinema again. Like, I guess it's Poison. Like, I guess it is Doom Generation. Then fine, we tried to be nice, but now
we're coming after you.
Now it's put my body on the steps of the Capitol kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I feel like, just in the activism world, that the things that really get people empowered or worked up or want to come out into the streets are when it's a life and death situation, right? Like the Vietnam War or, the AIDS crisis, that kind of thing is what is going to move huge, amounts of people. I mean, when they start taking away those rights, I think that we're going to see more and more people filling the streets, like saying enough. What I think is most effective, I don't know about in the cinema.
For your cinema, what about what agitates you for your cinema?
Well, God, I don't know. I mean, what agitates me is just like not feeling like, enough of us are seen. I mean, even though we are, we're almost always like the sidekick, or we're almost always, just an afterthought. Oh, let's have this lesbian character. Oh, let's make sure that there's we're a token character often. So that kind of thing. I mean, God, making cinema now to say, fuck you, or like to fight back against this administration. I don't know. I'd really have to think about that. But I will say, just in the world of activism, I think the most powerful thing that we can do is not just like fill the streets with bodies, but do real direct action work. So get out there and really come up with creative ways to shut things down, to, kind of like make our voices heard. I mean, everyone's seen the Women's March, and not that they're not powerful and strong and all of the marches that we've had, but we need more. Like, we need to be shutting things down in a way that like creates a real revolution. I mean, if they're going to take everything away from us, we have to create a revolution to get our right to fight back, to fight for our rights, which we already did. The fact that we're going to have to fucking do it again.
Which we might have to remember. We have to like get those muscles back.
Yeah. In terms of writing, it's funny because right now, the stuff I'm writing is not queer. It's like this movie about a mother and her two daughters. It's a memoir based on this woman, MFK Fisher, who's from Whittier, who was like the preeminent food memoirist in the 20th century. She's a great character, fascinating character. And, in a time when it was very hard to be a single mother and to be a single mother traveling and taking your daughters to a place where they don't even know the language, like that was really bold. So I think for me, just always writing female characters who are strong and have good, relatable voices, and who push boundaries. Like, I'm all about people pushing boundaries, whether they're sexual boundaries, whether they're, professional boundaries, anything. It's just like, yeah, give me all the sex toys. Give me all of that. Like this is real. This is who we are,
I feel like I've heard this kind of, this sort of like, I don't know, debate argument conversation of like, what defines like what makes art queer. And it's like, and I've heard the answer that I got, it's like, well, if it was made by a queer person, then this is queer art. And like you talking about this adaptation that you have made. And I feel like even within like the lesbian community, I feel like you have really queered the space in how you are married in a partnership with Ethan Coen for decades now. You also have a partner separately. Outside of that relationship, you are an out lesbian. You are making lesbian film. Like, that doesn't feel like an easy box within to contain like, oh yeah, my story is that of a lesbian woman. And so even that like is queering the notion of what marriage can be, of what commitment and partnership is, and what raising a family is. And then so you out here writing a adaptation of a mom and her two kids, suddenly that sounds queer as hell to me.
Great. Excellent. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's very, very sweet. I mean, like when I'm trying to define our relationship, I'm always like, the easiest word for me to come up with is unconventional, because convention is great for some things, but it's also really boring, It's like let's queer things up. Let's just make some things that make people uncomfortable, that people are like, that push against those kind of all of those norms. And, not that you have to demand that they like it or demand that they even see it, but let's make sure that's there, because if we were all just conventional, I mean, Jesus, that would be hard.
I can't go back. I thought you could teach me how to be a lesbian. What they wear, where they live,
Megan, we can't help you with that. There's not just one way to be a lesbian. You just have to continue to be who you are.
It's amazing watching, even in a climate where across TikTok and film and television, there is so much more gay to consume. It is so great to see 23, 24, 25-year-olds tune into But I'm a Cheerleader and still feel like it's fresh.
Yeah.
Still feel like it's not something that resembles what they see.
Yeah, totally.
And still feel like it is something that is kind of like an oh shit, they really did that. Knowing that it was made decades ago and being like, wow, I can't believe that came out then, but also being like, but it also doesn't feel like something that came out today either. There's something a little bit like rough around the edges about it still that feels like it was made outside of a totally sanctioned permission structure.
Yeah, I mean, it totally holds up. I watched it with my girlfriend a few weeks ago, and she had never seen it, and she loved it, and and I watched it and I was like, this is fucking great, and it doesn't even feel like it's aged at all,
No.
But that's because it is timeless, and I think because it is kind of, so campy that it could be any time, right? I mean, it's almost its own world, that especially the camp, So it's great casting. I mean, I've forgotten Michelle Williams is in it. It's just like an amazing cast, and Kathy Moriarty and RuPaul is great in it, and Clea Duvall. They're all so good. Natasha Lee. They're all great. So.
I for some reason the Melanie Linsky just saying dinner is at 7 is one of the line ratings that just has marked itself in my brain my entire life.
Yeah.
Okay. Rise and shine at 7. Breakfast at 8. Group therapy until lunch. Now in the afternoon we have free time to do whatever. And then we move inside for reorientating exercises.
And I mean, I think we should mention that the movie was made by Jamie Babbit, who is, I mean, I don't know if it was her first movie, but it was an incredible movie to make at such an early age. And she's super talented too.
I am one of the segment of people who is also a very big fan of Jamie Babbitt's next movie after that, The Quiet, which is a fascinating straight but perverse teenage drama starring Camille Bell and Alicia Cuthbert and a very surprising Edie Falco performance that I just recommend everybody. You won't be prepared for what you see. So I am a big fan of Jamie Babbitt's Millennium era sensibility for sure.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. I mean, Itty Bitty Titty Committee, she's super talented.
Oh.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, God. Itty Bitty Titty Committee. I forgot that she did that one. Having watched But I'm a Cheerleader again, fairly recently, what is it that still feels surprising to you about it? What are parts of it where it's like, wow, like what a crystallized thing that this pulled off that still feels rare? What still feels, I guess that's the question. What feels rare about?
Well, I mean, I think it's such a great movie, and it's a great kind of visualized movie. And often that doesn't happen. I mean, it's hard to find someone who has that much sense of style, I think, especially in queer cinema. So it feels fresh, I think, because it is like everything about it. Like you just don't get that much of it. I mean, you see it, whatever, and Ridley Scott, like people who have huge, production, budgets, but not something like But I'm a Cheerleader, where I don't know how much she had to make that movie, but it looks like she had, $20 million. And so that feels, I mean, just the filmmaking feels fresh to me now. And I don't know. I mean, just being able to watch people make fun of, kind of make fun of themselves and kind of be in on the joke, still feels fresh and fun to me.
I just wasn't meant to be Butch. I'm a sissy.
No. You should be proud of who you are.
Hello?
I mean, you're more than just a sissy. You're nice and clean and smart and sexy and firm and luscious and
Excuse
super.
me. The last thing I need right now is some fruit who just proved he's straight telling my ass how sexy I am. Congratulations, liars. You know who you are and you know who you want. Ain't nobody gonna change that shit.
I feel like that's a thing that in sort of the propagandized sort of notion that in the era of language policing or political correctness or cancellation that people are very worked up about. And there being like a sort of entire segment of podcasting that has kind of positioned itself as a reaction to that. Like we are, you're safe here to say whatever you want kind of thing.
Right.
And there kind of being this assertion along with that for the queer community as an example, like that these communities are these like leftist communities. They're wagging their finger at people and they are policing people and they're overlording over in a proper way to say things. When the most transgressive, ribald, raunchy, blue, out there comedy and an expression I've ever seen is that in which I get to experience queer culture in its most vibrant and its most, to use the very unapologetic. But like the notion that there is this community of sort of language and culture police when if you went to a drag show, if you watched Margaret Cho's stand-up comedy, like you would see so much willingness to push further into realms of discomfort and the ability to like, again, within one's community, poke fun at, take the piss out of, give shit to, with love and trust within a space of knowing one another's intentions are built out of love. I don't want there to be a recloseting of anyone, but I also do want there to be a reanimating desire en masse to break the wheel.
Yes.
And be like, but you know what? But conforming always kind of sucked a little. So maybe we don't give a shit about that so much.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get to break the wheel in the film world because, like I said, it's so expensive. But we can't forget John Waters, who was out there doing it first. I mean, if you want to find the crassest, most transgressive filmmaker, you don't need look no further than John Waters, who hopefully will be making a new movie soon.
Well, okay, I guess my final question, my wrap-up question would be, and it's more of just like a process one, coming off of like, obviously you've been involved in filmmaking for a very long time. Editing there's so much of filmmaking. I think that's where the movie is made, it is in the editing. So you obviously have always been a filmmaker. What, coming off of your experiences from Drive Away Dykes and taking on additional roles there, how was, just from a procedural process standpoint for you, how was making Honey Don't perhaps different coming off the experience of Drive Away Dykes?
Well, I felt more confident in many ways, having never done it before, or done it in very, small movies. I felt more confident kind of interacting with the actors, even, working with the cinematographer. I mean, Ethan and I storyboarded all of them. And as an editor, you kind of know, especially with the storyboards, how it's going to be cut. But talking technically with the cinematographer, that kind of thing, I just felt more at ease with. It was not that much different, but I felt like I could breathe a little easier the second time around.
And how have those experiences combined informed you working on this next thing? Like you said, you're working on with your daughter and with Ethan. How, with all of that accumulated, do you approach things differently now with a kind of more 360 in the trenches perspective on the process?
Well, this next one is animated, so I guess I'm looking for ways to, deal with people less.
The introversion wins. The introversion of the extrovert wins.
At the end of the day, always, yeah.
Well, all right. I will let working with people less be the exit statement, and that meaning I will let you go.
Okay, well, it was lovely to talk to you, and I do love people in small doses.
Huge thanks to Tricia Cooke. I was so excited to get the chance to talk with her. I wasn't kidding. When Driveway Dolls came out, Drive Away Dykes, that is, I was hoping we could get her for the show, and then to get the chance, the mulligan with Honey Don't, huge joy, especially to discuss a classic like But I'm a Cheerleader. Come on now, lights out. Honey Don't is out in theaters this weekend. You get out there and support a solo Coen making lesbian B movies, because as we've discussed on this podcast, gay dipshit representation matters. And now that one quick thing before I go, something that is extremely not gay dipshit representation. It's September, I believe it's September 12th is the release date for the forthcoming most recent Stephen King adaptation. This time it is of The Long Walk. I'm not a Stephen King literature deep diver. This is brand new to me. But I got to see this months ago in an early screening, and haven't really been clear on what can one say publicly about it, but people are starting to talk about it now, and it's starting to screen for early audiences, and I just, guys, it's so good. It is so good. It's stuck with me for months since I saw it. The story is it is America at a sort of indeterminate time in our history, future, when the landscape is ruled over by a militarized dictatorial regime that we really do not see any of in a wider sense. It is an incredibly local story that really blows out the surrounding world of the characters within it just by the relationships they have with one another, the conversations they have, just the things you glean by virtue of what they're going through, which is The Long Walk. It is a group of young men, perhaps late teens, early 20s, but a bunch of young men voluntold, conscript themselves into an annual tradition, sort of like a Hunger Gamesian situation, called The Long Walk. It is a race, but there is no finish line. And in the Long Walk, if you volunteer, you show up at the beginning point of the so-called race, and the only rule is you keep walking until you are the last one standing. You keep walking, that is at a pace of no less than 3 miles per hour, which you can track with a little sort of watch-like mechanism on your wrist. And it can go for however long it lasts until there is only one man standing. And that doesn't mean because you tap out and you go sit on the sidelines and you rest and get a drink of water when you're done. It means you are killed on the spot. If you are unable to complete the race, the competition, you are brutally dispatched by the militarized force that surrounds the walk at the front and the back of this cluster of boys. And if you fall out of step at the proper pace, you are shot. If you can no longer continue, you are shot. If you choose to quit, you are shot. It is directed by Francis Lawrence, who did direct The Hunger Games, and it is written by J.T. Molnar, who is the writer-director of the ferocious little indie Strange Darling, starring Kyle Gallner and Willa Fitzgerald. This is an excellent movie. It's so good. It is so unfortunately resonant with where we are right now, in a rising authoritarian state, an aspirationally fascistic leader. This movie does so much by not doing too much. It stays really intimately focused on the men at hand And we get to know them over the course of this movie, and your heart breaks for their struggle, and you feel like that clutch in your chest from wondering and sort of figuring out, deducing what this world around them is like. And it is an incredible ensemble of young actors led by Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson as sort of our main two amid the, cluster of boys competing in this walk. And Judy Greer will show up and just rip your heart right out of your chest in an expeditious fashion. She's not there long, but leaves a huge impact while she is. Hoffman and Johnson are an excellent sort of complementary pair for one another. This is the most I have really sunk into a Cooper Hoffman performance so far. David Johnson continues to be so compelling on screen. What a movie star, frankly, this young man is. And Mark Hamill at his is perhaps most grotesque and evil and horrible he has ever been on screen in a really chilling supporting role. So yeah, The Long Walk is coming. So excited to finally get to say I'm really excited about this movie. I think it's one of the movies of the year, honestly. And this is not your churned out King adaptation from the library of seemingly infinite titles. This one really stands out. This one is a truly worth going to the theater and having the feel bad experience for. So yeah, that is The Long Walk, and that is our show. You can keep up with us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us wherever you are listening now to get every new episode in your feed. And you can follow us on social media, like Instagram, where we are Feeling Seen Pod. And we are also on Blue Sky. Just search Feeling Seen, or me, Jor Crew, JORCRU, which is the same place I am on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. This show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows, supported directly by you.